Our next project is a two-part sugar skull project. The first part of the project is going to be to draw a sugar skull. If you were here last year, then you probably saw these hanging in the hallway. These are a common decoration that people make around Dia de los Muertos, which is the day after Halloween. And we'll talk more about that in our lesson. But you're going to ultimately do a beautiful drawing of a skull like this and then decorate it in the tradition of Dia de los Muertos. Okay, the first thing that you need to do is you have to draw a skull. And one of the requirements for this project is that you fill the page. Look at how this sugar skull drawing, the top of the skull is really close to the top of the paper. It's less than an inch from the edges on the sides. It's also less than an inch from the bottom edge of the paper, okay? So I'm going to show you how to draw that skull. And then if you get to that today, which you're only going to do if you're finished with your tessellation, then you are going to then start decorating your skull. And I may have already put a link in your Google Classroom that has like an image bank in Google that shows you a million ways to decorate a sugar skull. Traditionally, though, there's all these flower and plant motifs, like flowers here. Mandalas is what we call them in art, art in the round. So they'll have flowers in the eye sockets. They'll have little circles, going from really small to really large. Around, it looks like jewels, teardrops, little petal leafy looking things, hearts. Sometimes some of the pictures have diamonds in them, and that's just one way to do it. Some of them get really spooky because Dia de los Muertos is about visitations from the dead, our dead relatives coming to see us. And so you'll have, first of all, the skull is pretty spooky in and of itself. Then you'll have spider webs sometimes, but that's entirely up to you how you decide to interpret that. The hardest thing for some of my students to do is to get that skull. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to start about halfway between the top and the bottom, and you're going to draw a big semicircle that comes around like that. So it's like a C on its side, okay? That's your cranium, the cranium for your skull. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to draw your cheekbones. And that's like two L's in kind of a mirror view right there. Then you're going to draw your jaw, and that's like a U that comes down this way from those cheekbones. And then the last little bit of drawing is where you're going to take your cheekbone and you're going to draw another U that is going to be the bottom of your bottom row of teeth. I don't like how square that is there, so I'm just going to round that out a little. But it doesn't have to be perfect. Nobody's face is perfect. No one's perfectly symmetrical. Everyone is unique. Then you're going to draw a line like this that's, roughly 2 inches above the bottom of your teeth. And then you're going to do a line like that. And then you're going to divide it in half and then draw a grid like this. All right, now look at these teeth. See how these teeth are kind of rounded on the edges and they have black in between? You're going to take this from this to this by going like this. You're going to round inside those grids that you drew. And then just black out the space in between. But wait, there's more. Now we have to do our eye sockets, right? So look at how big those eye sockets are. The eye sockets are situated above the cheekbones and sort of centered right here. So let's draw some big eye sockets. This is usually the part where I have students say, do you have something I can trace to make a circle? No. Because again, none of us are perfect and none of us are perfectly symmetrical. You can do it. Okay? Then the nose part is like 2 teardrops just below and between the eyes. 2 teardrops side by side. Okay? And then, once you've gotten that, you have the foundation to create your skull, your sugar skull design, all right? Before you start coloring it in with colored pencils like this, you're going to want to draw in all your designs. Notice how the flowers are, they're like half around the edges, so it makes it look like they're wrapping around the skull. It's good to have centered designs. So like you can either have a flower in the middle of the forehead, or you can do something like this, or you can have a heart right here. When you look on Google, if you Google sugar skull drawings, you will see all different kinds of things, and you might see diamonds, you might see spider webs, no telling what you might see, okay? But this is how detailed it needs to be. Now I have some students who will like put a flower, and then they got all this white space on their skull. Is there any white space on this skull? Not very much. This is just about perfect. No more than a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch in between the designs, okay? All right, that is how you start